Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever the case may be. My name is Bill Rawson. I'm at Pascack Valley High School in lovely Hillsdale, New Jersey, and this is Jazz Up Your Web Story with Multimedia. Thank you for joining me, and we're going to take a look at some various types of multimedia, how you might incorporate it to help spruce up some of the stories that you have on your website. I'm going to not go into present mode here in my slideshow, in my presentation, because I'm going to be moving back and forth between this slide presentation and examples I'm going to show you of everything that I talk about. So I think it will work better if I stay out of presentation mode. I think that'll kind of make it more funky. I think it'll work better this way. So a lot of the examples I show you will be from my publication. I'll be showing you examples of stuff that maybe could have been a little bit better even sometimes, and some of them would be strong examples as well. We'll work it a little bit on both ends, and away we go. First of all, a little bit about me, my background. I was a sports writer at the New Jersey Herald, which is the daily newspaper in Sussex County, New Jersey, and that was before I was teaching. I did it about 8 years as like a part-time stringer, and then another 6 years where it was my actual full-time regular gig. And then, as I mentioned, I got into teaching, and this is my 13th year coming up at Pascack Valley, and my seventh as a journalism teacher and advisor to our publication, The Smoke Signal, name change pending I have there. We're actually, our school changed its mascot. They're not going to be the Indians anymore. This was just announced about 2 months ago. So we're obviously going to be following suit as well. So what our name becomes, who knows? Stay tuned. I've also been president of the Garden State Scholastic Press Association for the last year. That's the body, the organization that advocates for journalism in our state of New Jersey here. Yes, we are the Garden State, believe it or not. I know that New Jersey gets a little bit of a bad rap elsewhere sometimes. um, the Smoke Signals had some success. Some of the awards there are spelled out for you. For 4 years, we were the most awarded publication in our size division, which gave us that Distinguished Journalism Award for Print Division B. Then once the state started online awards 3 years ago, we won overall excellence and been the most awarded online program all 3 years. So we've had a little bit of success, and a lot of that's because of the chances we take and experimenting that we do with multimedia. So what is multimedia is the question. I think you'll find that it's a rather nebulous term when you hear people talking about it. Different people tend to mean different things by it. I try and use as broad a definition as I can with it. To me, it's pretty much anything that's visual and that's digitally engaging, going beyond the written word. Minnie McAdams writes a little bit about it in this article here that I link. And by the way, at the end, I'm going to have my email address, and I would love to pass along this slideshow to you so that you could look at all the examples and look at the links and things like that. So, please don't be shy about reaching out to me for that. Robin Tomlin of Digital First Media prefers the term videos and interactives to multimedia. And as I said, it's going beyond the traditional written storytelling using visual and digital and I'm having a tough time saying that for some reason today. Visual and digital engagement and interaction. So you're engaging your audience in different ways. I judge a lot for other states' competitions, awards competitions, and that's a comment I leave quite a bit, is that as a website, I really do feel that it's your responsibility, your obligation to engage your audience in different ways that go beyond the written word. And that is essentially why multimedia. I just spoke to the first point, certainly. And these are really ways that can help bring your story to life. You can explore a separate angle, from the story that it's complementing. You can dig deeper into an existing angle that's already there. And sometimes this can even be the story itself. Rather than a complementary piece, sometimes the digital piece might be the story in and of itself. also important to understand that multimedia is always evolving. There are new programs and apps that are literally being created like every day. And on the other side of that coin, there are programs and apps that disappear every single day. And I'll be mentioning a couple of those too. So you have to be on your toes a little bit. You have to roll with the punches. And you always have to be thinking about what multimedia is going to work best with what particular story. And it's best to think about that out in front of the story when you're planning it, rather than at the end and then, okay, geez, now what am I going to do about multimedia? It's best when you include it as part of the planning process for your story. So let's start by talking about photo galleries a little bit, or slideshows. A collection of pictures that tell a story. I think we probably all know what they are. I'm sure you probably do them if you have an Instagram account. You upload 4 or 5 or 6 pictures of whatever you were doing, and you're telling a story about what you were doing. Just like you probably do with those Instagram posts that you do on your own, you want to make sure that you're being selective with your photo galleries. You don't want to have like a lot of pictures of the same type of thing, and you don't want a million pictures, and you certainly don't want it to be a photo dump, as I mentioned here, of just every picture that you took. You want to be selective about it. So let's look at an example. This is actually from our publication, The Smoke Signal here. And this is of what they call the Valley Cup assemblies that we have. They're like pep rallies, essentially, and they have several of them throughout the year. The classes compete against each other, and at the end, the grade that winds up with the most points is the Valley Cup winner. So kind of about a good way to tell that story we've found is by making it very visual. I mean, why write about something like this when you can be showing it and showing what happened and the excitement and everything? So that's what the attempt was in this here. I just clicked out of it. And if I go back into it, hopefully it'll load fairly promptly. And it did, okay. There's the first picture, and, you know, these are okay. That's a pretty good picture there. I think this was the chant. There's like a school chant that teacher was leading us in. Some pictures of the grades. Now, where I made some constructive criticism for our photography was right around, for our photographer, was right around here, because there were some similar photos here of, I think, 1 or 2 photos, probably just one, really, of these fellows eating watermelon would have been fine. And same here with the, you know, kind of the very similar looking pictures. So I think they probably could have been more selective there. One exception that we make to limiting the number of pictures is for the prom, because I think you always have to consider your purpose. So when we have a photographer at prom, really the purpose, more so than to tell a story per se, is to try and get as many kids in there as well. So, you know, they're looking at your publication and your website. So as you can see, there's a lot more photographs in there than there ordinarily would be in a situation like this with a photo gallery. There's something else that you can do with a photo gallery, and this might be, at this point, I would almost use the term old school. This is more of like maybe a 5 years ago sort of a thing. I don't think it's done as much anymore, but it's called a sound slideshow. And basically the idea, and I've seen it done effectively, so it's something that you might want to play around with and try, is that you take a photo gallery and then you put it in a program such as iMovie, and you can time the photos to show up at regular intervals, and then you can write a script, and you tell the story with the script to go along with the pictures. And here's an example of that I found from, this is actually from the Daily Orange. That's the Syracuse University publication. And as you'll see, that's the idea that they follow through with here, where they have a photo gallery and they put narration on top of it.
About the sickness, and I was learning, you know, what happens to a person and the procedures they have, and it changes with medications that come about, or, you know, things that they think will work, or the progress, or the, you know, everything and research going on. And
so you get the idea there. Something that you could play around with if you choose to. The next thing I'm going to look at with you is a biggie in the journalism field these days, a real biggie, the video embed. Now, a lot of publications have figured out that an easy way to engage your audience is just by simply putting some raw footage, raw video footage in the article and embedding it. You can even shoot like an actual produced segment as well, if you want to take it to that level. But just simply putting in a piece of an interview or something like that, it gives an added dimension to your story. I often tell our journalists that, you're going to be, they like to record their interviewing anyway, and they do it a lot with the audio on their iPhone. Why not just kind of pick the iPhone up and, record them with video, and then you have some opportunities to maybe embed some clips in there. So I'm going to show you a few examples of how we've done that one. This is something that my publication does quite a bit. This is a story about, it's actually kind of a neat story. A Spanish teacher who's been in our school for a long time went to Peru when he was in his early 20s, and he met this girl that he was intrigued by her life and everything. And so he actually wrote a poem about her and was very inspired by her. Well, the students that went to Peru on a class trip that our school did a few years ago said, hey, why don't we try and find this woman and see if, see if they can make a connection there, or a reconnection, if you will. And they did. They actually found the woman. She was like 51 or something when they found her. She was like 10 years old when they were there, when the Spanish teacher was there. And you can see after 38 years, that's the time that elapsed. And they took video that someone shot from their iPhone and made it as part of the article. And I think you'll agree that it really makes the, kind of brings it to life in a different way.
Where is it? Yeah, so we got the film. I got it.
There she is.
You're Julie?
Oh!
Hola!
Mi profesor de español vino aquí en 1979.
She actually looks very similar to the way she did in the picture. They wound up having her hold up the picture of her when she was, 10 years old or whatever. Some more examples of how you can use video. Sports, I mean, what a terrific opportunity, right? This is our baseball team won their first state sectional title in 51 years. And in addition to a little photo gallery here, they threw some interview clips here to go along with it.
Without the whole team, we don't win today.
Now, you say that you put up more than half of your team's runs, but we'll get to that in a second.
And you can see here, just from the thumbnail, that they even did a little bit of added spice to it and, put the stats up and kind of did a little split screen thing with B-roll while they were interviewing that young man. So that's another good example. Here's a story. This is kind of an interesting one, too, where our girls basketball coach at our school got his 1,000th career win. And I mean, that's a lot of wins for a basketball coach when you think about it. Do the math on that. That's averaging 20 wins a year for 50 years. That's like having 50 pretty darn good basketball seasons. But anyway, that aside, they thought what a neat accomplishment it would be if they could find some local coaches that have been around, some prominent local coaches, but even some, quote unquote famous ones to kind of give some well-wishing messages for him. And some of them did. And this is, you might recognize Dick Vitale. A lot of you, maybe even non-sports fans, might recognize Dick Vitale as, he's kind of a noted celebrity at this point. He was one of them who did. This is Avery Johnson, who's a college coach, and he played in the NBA. There's some ESPN personalities in here as well. Ian O'Connor, who worked for ESPN, wrote a book about Derek Jeter. So they embedded these little video clips that these people sent. A cool little intro that they made.
Hey, I want to say congratulations, Coach Jasper. Unbelievable. 1,000 wins coming up. Unreal. I've heard so many great things about you from Rich Hollenberg, who does an outstanding job with us at ESPN, and he's so proud to be a graduate of Pascack Valley. I grew up in North Jersey, so I know all about that area, and I'll tell you one thing. I hear you're awesome, baby, Coach, with a capital A. They tell me you're super scintillating, sensational. Keep rolling on. I want to hear about 2,000 wins.
And there you go. He's something else, isn't he? Those of you who use SNO as your platform, the Snow platform for your websites, probably might recognize this as the grid template format, which you can play around with as well. And they just embedded each video as its own article in the grid format. Couple other quick video embed examples, and I think I picked 4 examples overall. We're on number 3 of 4, because I really do think that this is one of the more important multimedia aspects and something that you can do very easily, and that a lot of publications are doing. This is homecoming, and what we've taken to doing at homecoming is going around and just asking a few alumni if they'll talk about, share your favorite memory, that sort of a thing. And these are all very short clips. Most of them are 30 to 60 seconds long, and very effective. And then I'll finally show you this video embed example. I'm sure your school probably, like ours, has talent nights and talent shows and things like that. We said, well, why write about what people are singing and things like that when you can actually be showing what they're singing and everything and give everyone a real taste of it? So what we've taken to doing is throwing a few photos in there, just a little blurb explaining the event. And then sometimes they put just about all of them, sometimes just a smattering of them, all these videos. And it's never or rarely the whole song. Usually it's, 30 to 60 seconds or something like that. And it gives your audience an opportunity to, actually get a taste for it.
You belong among the wildflowers. You belong in a boat out at sea.
As you can see, too, something you might want to play around with is what we did, where we actually, we had a kid who volunteered he said, what about if I made like a little cool, like, intro that has our publication name on it? I said, yeah, great, that's awesome. And a lot of people think that's really cool. So moving on. We've been there. Video embed, there's the examples. How about audio embed? Like I mentioned before, our journalists, at the very least, if they're not taking video, they always seem to be recording audio of their interview subjects that they go back over. Why not embed some audio, especially maybe a sound bite, something that you didn't use as the quoted content in the article. SoundCloud is probably the most popular to do it, but there are other programs as well. And SoundCloud, I think, implemented some kind of a time limit on free accounts. So we moved away from that and use other things now. I'm also going to use this as an opportunity for a cautionary tale. This is an article that I've loved over the years, sharing with people as an example of audio embed, and just a very compelling article. This was about 4 or 5 years ago when they were doing board meetings at my school for transgender policies and things about, what bathrooms they could use and that kind of a thing. And it drew a lot of our community out to these meetings, and a couple of the meetings got a little bit contentious. And this one particular fella spoke during the public portion of the meeting, and he started attacking one of the board members in particular, verbally attacking him, and he wound up being escorted out by the police. And our journalist followed him into the lobby and interviewed him in the lobby and let him keep talking. And he was talking about how he used to be gay and now he's not. Now he's an ex-gay, and he's this is all a bunch of ridiculous stuff, all this transgender stuff, and it was very interesting and strange, to say the least, but compelling. And we had the audio here embedded that they recorded from the interview. We put it right in here, and people loved it. It was very interesting. But, and here's, like I said, the cautionary tale, what you always need to do, always, make sure that you have a publication account for every program that you use. And I'm pretty sure we did have a SoundCloud account at this point, but my guess is that we didn't use it for this, and it was probably one of the reporters or staffers' SoundCloud accounts, their personal one that we used. and what happened, what must have happened is the account got deleted or something like that, and so did the embed. And so now that's gone forever, I guess. So it's such a shame that that happens. But here's another example of this.
And they tell me just to slow it down.
This is an article about instant replay being used at our high school football game, which is kind of nuts, isn't it? That they would use instant replay at a high school football game. But they tried it out and experimented with it a couple times at our school. And this is one of the helpers, a teacher at our school who's helping out with the whole system.
Speed it up, zoom in, zoom out, and what I want from.
And you learned all that just from?
Just this year, just from playing around with it. Dylan and I have spent a lot of time.
So I think that works very well, don't you? Gives an added element to what you're doing, an added dimension. How about the social media embed? Another great way. It's easy to do. This works best with Twitter. The other platforms have different privacy policies and things like that, and also don't always make it as easy for you to embed. But Twitter is very, very easy to embed. And we've done that a few times with stories like this one. Again, our school, this whole Indian mascot thing has been kind of lurking right underneath the surface for a long time, and it's kind of flared up a few times over the years. One time was a few years ago. Our district made a funny policy where they weren't going to eliminate the Indians as our nickname, but they were going to try and phase out the Indian head logo. But of course, every once in a while it gets co-opted by someone in a t-shirt design or something, and that's exactly what happened here. These kids, during a basketball game at a local school, damaged the other school's bleachers, and as a fundraiser to pay for it, they created this t-shirt with the Indian head on it. So we sort of did a double truck here about the fundraiser and then about the misconception with the logo, because a lot of people didn't even realize that the Indian head logo, they were trying to phase it out. And here they embedded a few tweets. Like here's the tweet where they were selling the shirt. Here's the tweet from the actual game. So you can see the scene of the crime, if you will. It was right around in here where the bleachers got damaged. Another example of this was just very recently, from about June 23rd, so a couple months ago, and this was when they decided to get rid of the mascot. And as you can probably imagine, it's been pretty passionate on both sides of the argument. And here they embedded some tweets as well as used some pull quotes to kind of get a whole bunch of reaction to this decision to get rid of the mascot. This is absolutely ridiculous. Our school represents the Indian logo with nothing but respect. So embedding social media can be very, very effective, especially Twitter. Infographics, not something new. Infographics have been around practically as long as newspapers have. Make sure that you use them with your online website as well as with your print publication. It's especially when you're using statistics and things like that. No one wants to read about statistics. It's much better to display them in a visual way so that your audience can digest them so much better. Here are some of the programs that we commonly use. Pictochart. We used to use Pictochart a lot, but that's another one of those programs that started to charge for things and only gave you a certain amount of free ones that you could do. So we've moved on to other things. I know that they use Canva a lot now. And some examples. Here's a football preview from a couple years ago. And rather than just talking about and writing about these position stuff, so why don't we make an infographic with the possible starting lineups displayed visually? So that's one example. Here's another one about a teacher of ours who likes to do kind of this strange traveling. He backpacks around, figures out where he's staying on the fly, rather than arranging for hotels and things ahead of time, all that kind of stuff. And at the bottom, they did a little infographic, Schul's Rules for Travel. Schulian is the teacher's name. And here's another football story, and they actually made like a little graphic out of the playoff brackets. The next element that I want to talk about, the next program, the Night Lab Suite. It's a suite of programs that was developed by Northwestern University. This is on the internet. This is at a website, so anyone can go and access and use it. It winds up giving you an embed code that you use in your story, that you embed in the story. It consists of 6 products now. It used to be just 4 products, and then they made a couple new ones. It used to be just Juxtapose, Timeline, Story Map, and Sound Site. They expanded, and Storyline and Scene are 2 brand new ones now that they do. So I'm going to show you a very quick glimpse at all 6 of them as they are on the website. You'll see the URL there as well. And I'll show you an example of a few of these. I think I've got something from Juxtapose and from Timeline that I'm going to show you. So this is Juxtapose, and this is at the, you can see there the URL, nightlab.com is where the magic kind of happens here. And again, I'll reiterate that you can reach out to me, and I'd be thrilled to send you my keynote presentation here, so you can have all these links and everything. So the idea with Juxtapose basically is that you take 2 pictures and you overlay one on the other, and then it gives you this toggle bar so you can scroll from one to the other like that. And then you embed that in the site. Why don't I go ahead and show you that right now? Here's an example of that. This is a story about a girl at our school who was adopted from China when she was a baby. And she did a DNA test to kind of, find out a little bit more about her genealogy and whatnot. And here's a picture of her. And again, it's using Juxtapose, the baby picture there. And then this is her and her mom today. And she's got a cookie just like she does in the first one there. You can also set this to display to default wherever you want it to when someone clicks into the story. If you want, you can have it default all the way over here and have it like be a big reveal for whatever the other picture is. And here is one of those Valley Cup assemblies that I mentioned before, pep rallies, where this was from the last one, and this young man was the senior class president, and he got injured in the actual, there it is. He got injured in the celebration at the end when the seniors won. Everyone piled out onto the floor, and he got trampled, basically, and broke his collarbone. But there he is, before and after. And he said that it was worth the broken collarbone to win Valley Cup. And again, before and after is really a good use for this, and perfect for a retirement story like this. This teacher was retiring, and so there he is, from the yearbook photo, his first year, and now I think he actually looks remarkably similar, don't you? So that's Juxtapose. The idea with Timeline is that you can create a timeline, and you can actually embed media into it, so you can even make it more engaging than just some kind of an infographic with a timeline. And I do have an example of that as well. This is a retirement story about a wonderful teacher that was at our school named Karen Kosh. And they did a timeline of all the various highlights of her career and the things she coached and stuff like that. And you can either click along them in the actual timeline, or you can use the arrows to go from one to the very next one to the very next one. And they didn't embed as many things as they could have. I would have liked to actually see more pictures in there and stuff. But they did embed, I think, 4 of her popular stories that she would tell. And they had her tell the story and captured the audio, uploaded it to SoundCloud, and then embedded the SoundCloud in here. So as you click on the particular stories, and I guess it's in the timeline when the story took place, the Intrepid story that has to do with the battleship Intrepid that was a museum that they visited. I think something wacky happened, and you can click on the story here, and
so the infamous story, the famous story is the Intrepid, right?
So that's a real neat program too, I think. These are the ones that we haven't used as much. This one's called SoundSite, and basically you can, sort of like you would hyperlink to an article, you can hyperlink text and embed some kind of an audio piece to it. And when you click on it, it'll play the audio clip. Here it says the crowd was as large, and when you click on it, you hear like a roaring cloud, that kind of a thing. And this is Story Map, where you can kind of create a trail. Here, this looks like some kind of a cross-country trail, and you can embed media and things like that so that you can follow the journey with little video clips and things like that. And then these are the two new ones. Storyline has to do with data. So this is numbers, like a graph that you can embed things on. And again, click on, and it can be either be text, or you can embed various media in those things. And then this one, you need a 360 camera to use, but this is Scene, S-C-E-N-E. And as you can see, they kind of, if you click and hold, it kind of does a 360 thing. So that's the Night Lab suite. I definitely encourage you to play around with that. How about Google Maps? Have you ever used that before on your website? A wonderful tool when you're doing a story in particular that has some geographical component to it. This is one of my favorite times that we've used it, where it's a sports story and it's about the first of the individual wrestling tournaments that they have at the end of the year, the state tournaments, where it starts to get whittled down gradually from tournament to tournament until they have state champions and everything. And they totally restructured how they were doing it geographically about 4 years ago. And basically, the geography got completely turned upside down. It used to be that you only had schools that were right around you in your district, but they sort of got very loose with that here. And when our sports staffers were looking at it, they realized that it was weird how it kind of wound up playing out, because there were like 6 schools grouped together on one part of the state, and then 3 schools that were like an hour away and at the other side of the state. So here they display that in an infographic, and what district these schools were in the previous year and how they did in it. And then here they display that in a Google map. And I think this came out great. I mean, you could have written about this, and yeah, that's all fine and good, but here you can actually see it. The border of New Jersey is like right here, basically. And here, and this is Manhattan. My school's actually very close to Manhattan. And so you have 6 schools right here, and then an hour west, you have these 3 outlier schools all in the same tournament. Kind of weird, isn't it? Great way to display that, I think, using Google Maps. Do I have another example, or is it something else? I think we're onto something else there. Adobe Spark. This is one of the newer programs. Been very hot the last year or two, especially. It's done through Adobe. I do believe they have like more vanilla ways to do it for free online. If your school has an Adobe account like mine does, you should have this as part of that account, and you have the full version of it. And with the Adobe Spark, it's usually some kind of creative combination of pictures and videos. It gives you templates to display that uniquely and creatively. So when you click into the story, it sort of looks like this. And then you click into the Adobe Spark, and that's where you see this. So this was from just a couple months ago with a Black Lives Matter gathering that happened near my school. And so you can see there's a little bit of text kind of setting the table for everything that's going on, setting the stage, and then there's a nice little display of pictures, a nice photo gallery, and then some videos at the bottom as well. And there's all kinds of templates where you can choose to display it however you want. And here they start doing sort of a side-by-side thing. That's the basic idea with Adobe Spark. And this is something similar too here, where they did one for our in-person graduation that just happened last month in July. And here you have, I think they picked a very effective photo here for the one that the headline is on top of, with the socially distanced gathering there, and then again kind of creatively displaying all the videos and photos and whatnot. So that's Adobe Spark. Another thing that you can do that I wish that my publication actually did more of is quizzes. We do like the polls on our website, and that's cool too. But there are all sorts of little interactive quizzes that you can do. And they can range from, you know, a complimentary piece like I think I got the idea for these examples here from a story that we had done about someone who had a cupcake business in our school. And then, you know, you could do like a see how much you know about cupcakes and have like trivia questions and a quiz, or you can do something more fun the sorts of things that you see on social media all the time. Like, what type of cupcake would you be? Personally, I think I'd probably be like, I don't know, chocolate with strawberry icing. I'm a little unusual like that, but that's just me. Here's a couple places that you can do it. Proprof.com. One of the reasons that we didn't do this as much is because for some reason that wound up being blocked, we found, Proprof, and that's one of the more popular places that it's done. This is a newer one, I believe, Involve.me, that some people use. I have a couple examples from other publications, not from mine, but here's a Do You Know What Happened Last Week from the Southwest Shadow, which is an outstanding student-run publication in the Las Vegas area. And so you go through and you sort of, I think this is actually in mid-quiz. I had done the first couple questions already. Which state has implemented a $500 fine for those breaking new travel rules? Oh, my state's one of the three choices. What did Beyonce release on July 1st? Ooh, I don't know. Was it a new album? New perfume? Let's say new perfume. So you can go all the way through, and at the end it tells you how you did. I'm going to do this really quickly to... Oh, not so good. 2 out of 5. Here's what's called a thing link. And I think that's actually the next slide here. Thinglink.com. This is done on the internet at this website, thinglink.com, and they'll help you make something that you can embed in your website. And it allows you to basically put an image there and then pin things on the image. I've seen it done with pictures, with text. I think text is probably the most common thing that you see done with this. And that story that I just started to show you here, it's from Eastside Online, which is an outstanding publication in my state here in New Jersey. Cherry Hill East is the school. It's a couple hours from my school down in South Jersey. And so this was a story about voting and elections, and they wound up embedding this thing link here. And when you click on it, it's a map. So they put this map, they uploaded this map to thinglink.com, and then thinglink.com helped them pin all these things here, and they put what information they wanted to be in each pin. And in this case, it happens to be what the voter ID laws are in each state. So, you know, there's Pennsylvania, here's oops, I'm on Delaware there. North Carolina, Virginia, how strict or how loose the voter ID laws are. So some professional examples I threw in here for you to explore too if you want. This first one I'll give you a quick peek at. Snowfall, done a few years ago by the New York Times. a lot of these professional examples, they have people who are hired to do coding and things like that. So it's much more sophisticated stuff that would be more difficult for you to pull off on your publication unless that's the way that you do your website. If you actually code your website yourself and all that kind of stuff. If you use Snow like I do, it's not really as easy to do it. And look at this. I mean, it's kind of like a picture and a looped video, I guess, that they've coded together here. And then they've got some video embed and things like that. So, a resource for you that I want to recommend is JEA Digital Media. It's jeadigitalmedia.org. I have it linked right here. It's a terrific place to explore all sorts of possibilities. They have a really super wide range of programs there, more programs than you could ever hope to actually use. You just have to play around and find what works for you. And again, so this shifts, the landscape shifts so quickly when it comes to apps and things like that and multimedia that, you know, some things that they have there have already been supplanted with newer programs and don't work anymore and that kind of a thing. Finally, you have any questions, comments, concerns, wise remarks, anything that you want, please always feel free to reach out to me anytime. There's my email address. I would be thrilled to share this this presentation with you so that you could have all the links, share anything cool that you've done with me. I love checking out work that you've done. And with that said, I thank you so much for your time and continue to do great work.